Now I know I have more than enough to get around this piece of newspaper. So I'm going to start to fold that just to see how much excess I'm going to have in my way, or if I've got bare patches I need to realign my newspaper to get more clay around the piece here. Let's see. I think I will move that down just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. I am going to roll the piece of clay around the newspaper. Bring that over. Okay. Okay, so you can see I've brought this just to where this edge meets the other piece of clay here. So I'm not going to take this piece of clay, slip that on there, fold it on, create a big disaster. We just need enough clay to get these two edges to weld together. So I'm going to take a little bit of this and cut off that excess. I'll probably still have even more excess, but that will at least keep me from folding over a lot of excess clay. So I'll take my slip. I don't need too much. This clay is pretty squishy, but just to maintain discipline here, go ahead and slip that. Okay, so we will take this piece of slab, bring that up, slowly tack those two edges together just so you can control the whole thing a little better and see what moves we need to make next. Obviously what we have here does not in any way resemble a head, but we've got an oblong shape that we can work with. We've got it open here where we're going to tuck some clay down for the top of the head. I'm going to leave this slightly open because I'm going to work on putting his jawline and chin down here. So first we want to close up the top of his skull. Okay, so I'm gonna tuck some of that down just a little bit at a time. I can already see I've got way too much, I've got plenty of clay. I'm actually going to cut a few darts in there. It does take a little practice to figure out how much or how little you need. If you're worried about it, cut out a little bit at a time. We can fold that down now and bring those two edges together, and then you won't have that big triangle of clay folding over the other slab of clay. Okay, got a little excess here, but this piece is kind of thin, so I'm just going to leave those two. Those are okay. It's an okay thickness. So I'm bringing those edges together. I'm starting to make this hole smaller here. Okay, you can see there. We've just made two moves and already we've got half the top of the skull covered. Okay, I'm going to cut one. Let's see, cut another dart. We've got lots of extra clay here. Cut a little more here. Fold that down. Okay. And fold it a little more. Let's see if I can get that hole welded together. Okay, looking good. Bring those two edges together. Still got lots of extra clay here. Okay, we don't need all that. We just need enough clay to close up that part of the hole there. We're going to shape this in a minute with a paddle. But we just want to get our excess clay off of there. Okay, so I'm going to cut off this kind of spout looking shape here. I've got enough clay here. I can just pinch those edges together. More than enough to seal that up. Okay, so you can see if your clay is kind of hard, that's more difficult to deal with. Okay, we've also left the bottom open because we'll probably need to make some adjustments to the back of his head. Right now his head is kind of egg-shaped. Usually the back of our skull has a little more going on because we've got those big brains in the back there. So I'm just going to gently not too much because this clay is still a little squishy for the paddle, but I'm going to flatten that down and just get it level. So this part facing me is going to be his face, and the seams are in the back. I always do that because you can kind of cheat and cover your surgical work with hair, leaving the smooth surface in the front is kind of your canvas for his face. Okay. So if you do end up with something really skinny, you've left yourself enough clay, kind of get back there. That'll stretch out a little bit. You can take some extra newspaper. Up a little bit. Go ahead and shove some up into the back of the skull there. Give me a little more support. Okay. Right now he kind of looks like a superhero wearing a mask here. I'm going to take back there, kind of taper it back, give it more of a defined neck area. Okay. So you can see this clay is really flexible. Even when clay is kind of normal, when you're working on this, you want to give the head a chance to kind of set up a little first before you do a lot of work on it. So we're just roughing out the shape first. Okay. Okay. A little more on the neck. Okay. If you're not sure of your anatomy, in the module, I will put a 3D online model of the skull that you can actually rotate on your computer screen and look at. If you're not so fortunate to have a human skull hanging around your house for whatever reason, this is a pretty decent substitute. I've been at this long enough that I have a pretty good idea of what the human head looks like, so I'm sort of not working from an anatomical model here. Okay. Okay, so when we have a piece in the round like this, and you're going to be moving it around, sometimes you've got things that are going to try to flatten themselves out when you put them on the table. So it's good to have kind of maybe a cloth or an old pillow. I use a piece of upholstery foam, and that can kind of hold your shapes while you're shaping on different areas, so you don't lay it against the table and flatten out the shape that you want to stay around. Right now I'm just going to keep that kind of upright like that, just so the skull keeps its shape while I'm working on the head and shoulders.